Hey there, how y'all doing today? This is Data, back out on a trail in my local area in the western suburbs of Chicago. I'm doing a little training hike and to test out some new gear, and also I'm getting ready for another hike on the Appalachian Trail, which I'll talk about here in a minute. But I just want to say hello. I'm hiking today in a new piece of gear. It's a kind of a generic weighted vest. This is one of my favorite parts of the western Chicago forest preserves because this one is almost all dirt. It's also, part of it's open to dogs off lead, so I might run into some folks out walking their pooches. There's also a little model airplane flying grounds in this area, so I'm also testing out another set of new gear today for the first time ever. I have switched to zero drop shoes, which I'll show you here in a second. Those are Ultra Lone Peak 9 Pluses. I haven't had a lot of problems with my Hoka Speed Goat 6s, but I've had a little bit of a plantar fasciitis issue on and off. Y'all might have heard me talk about it over the year or so. And some of the stuff I've seen online suggests that it might be because the not having a zero drop heel means I'm landed on my heel more firmly than what is good for that heel. So instead of landing on the pad of the heel, I'm landing with the Speed Goats and most other shoes that have a rise to them, landing on the very point of my heel, the back of it, which is right where that plantar is. So I've had them for a couple of days. This is my second hike of any number of miles on them, and so far so good. It does change the gait a little bit, my gait a little bit, in a way that helps me to walk with my calf more like when I'm walking uphill, even when I'm on flat ground, and it does seem to take some of the load off the back of my heel. So I'll let you know toward the end of this walk if I'm still happy with these, but so far so good. Into the woods again. There's a part of this trail in this particular forest preserve that cuts back through a really pretty nicely wooded area, and I'm in that now. And so since this is one of the only sections of trail in my area that looks anything like the Appalachian Trail, then maybe this is a good point to announce my next hike. In about a week, actually, as today is Friday, in 3 or 4 days, I'm going to be driving down to Roanoke, and I'm going to hike 100 plus miles. I don't know exactly how far yet, between Rockfish Gap and someplace near Roanoke. That'll tie that section into the first section I did at the beginning of this year when I went north from Rockfish Gap up through the Shenandoahs to Maryland. So one thing I've learned as a section hiker this year, since I've given up on my flip-flop through hiking sections, is that I need to be flexible either in terms of how many days I'm out or how far I plan to go. And that allows me to perhaps take a 0 day if the weather gets inclement or I have a gear failure. So in this case, I built a little slack into the schedule. I hope to go a little more than 100 miles. And I'm really just looking forward to being up in this part of central Virginia here in the middle of October, when should be that there will be a little bit of color change, like I'm seeing here in the Midwest a little bit as I come through these woods. Dang, this little blowdown was here last time I came through here in the spring, along with the poison ivy hanging off of it. That's not cool. But I think this big one here is new. I don't remember seeing this the last time I came through. there isn't very much up or down elevation change on this trail, but it's nicely wooded, and yeah, that's definitely new. And they've cut part of it back to clear a path, but they've left a lot of it, which is it's cool. It's a maple tree. No, nope, that is an oak tree, and the points would make me think that's a red oak. I think. We have had some winds through the Midwest this year. It looks like they got another one, although I think this one might have been blown down like that the last time I came through also. I really do enjoy hiking in the fall. Aesthetically, it's attractive. There's usually plenty of water out on the trail. And most of all, it's much cooler. So it's in probably the mid-60s as I stumble across this particular bit of fungi here. My goodness, there has been a lot more weather damage on this trail than what I'm used to. This looks like another great big oak tree. Let's come down. There's another great big tree's been blown down this summer. Might be a chinkapin oak there. Tall, but not huge, so not old. There's another one broke off a branch back in there. Mother Nature kind of went to work on this place this summer. More than I'm used to seeing anyway. There are 250,000 to 500,000 people living within about a 10-minute drive of this place on the outskirts of Chicago. And I can't remember seeing more than 2 or 3 people on this trail ever in the entire year and a half or so I've hiked it. So after a mile, I get dumped back out onto the wider path through the prairie part of this forest preserve. And I have discovered today that I think one of the many uses that this forest preserve gets put to is that it serves as a cross-country track for several of the schools in our area. I think there's a middle school located up toward the north end of this. But this is a nice enough tract of land that it might serve as a cross-country meet location for many of the local area high schools. There are noticed dog owners that they had to put their dogs back on the leash here. And you know, one of those things I like about my neighbors is they very often do. Sometimes they even put their dogs back on a leash when they're in the area where the dogs are allowed to be off leash. Which, you know, that might be a little overly polite for my taste. The dogs are usually very friendly and not threatening, but I do appreciate that my neighbors do that. Once they get on this part, though, they almost always put them back on lead. Just have a big open prairie. I see some storm clouds in the distance, so I might turn around here in a minute. I think these are turkey vultures up overhead here. Except I only see one of them, and they usually hunt in groups. This is my final passage up toward my vehicle. Oh, I guess I was trying out 1/3 piece of new equipment on this hike. It's something I've gone back and forth on, but I think I'm going to try on this next set of hikes. That is, I was listening to audiobooks. It does seem to help my pace. I don't have as much of a struggle with the psychology on trail, at least so far. I have a lot to think about, but deep thought about my own life can sometimes be a little distracting and lead me to stumble and not watch my foot placement. Whereas I think I'm finding so far that when I listen to audiobooks, at least while hiking, I don't get as distracted. I can focus on the trail and just ignore the book when need be. I'm not listening to some deeply involved text, just other hikers' stories of their hikes on the Appalachian Trail mainly. So, at 3 or 4 miles in today, a couple miles yesterday, the Lone Peak 9 Pluses seem to do well. I don't have any sensation of any rubbing causing any blisters or anything. There's a privy at this trailhead. This is the West Aurora Forest Preserve parking lot, just west of Chicago. And there's Old Blue. So there we have it. That was about 3 miles today. I finished up at the trailhead where there's a privy. There's also, as you can see behind me, a water source and a picnic table. And all in told back in here, there, in addition to the little model airplane field, there's also, I don't know, probably 8 or 10 miles of trails that are either gravel or dirt through the woods. And they connect to the Gillum Trail, which is a paved rail-to-trail bicycle path. And that connects to the river trail along the Fox River, which runs all the way from up in Elgin, Illinois, down to Montgomery past Aurora. So really, and you can go west off of that trail, or east or west off that trail. I think connects to a big across the U.S. rail-to-trail system. So, you know, the trails are level and not real challenging, but there are a fair number of them I found since I started hiking in my area. So, you know, if you're thinking about hiking as a way to get into shape, you know, you might look around your local area. I was surprised at how many trails there were around here. And so looks like I'm just barely ahead of that storm coming in, though. That's west there behind me, so it might or might not rain, but it's looking like it will. So I'm gonna get at it and get home. And actually, today is also the day I'm gonna permethrin treat my hiking clothes for my next hike as soon as the storm passes over. So I'm all ready to go next week to go down to Virginia and get back on the Appalachian Trail. Happy trails to each of you.